A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone, and this is another in our members only podcast series. And it's the first of our event focused podcasts, and what better place to start than the London Marathon. I've got a lot of history with this event. I've worked with the Marathon for more than 20 years. Developed their charity program, launched online registration in the event for the first time 15 years ago, and lots of happy memories. The 9 times I ran it were all in fancy dress and running in a rhino, in a Mr. Man, the well child nurse. Just give you a lot of things to look back on, that's for sure. So let's break this one down into 6 different areas. We're going to look at the expo, the start area, and we'll look at the first half of the course, the second half, that last mile, which will stay in people's memories for a very, very long time. And then we'll do a bit of a wrap up. So we're going to be joined on this podcast by 8 runners. They all ran for charity. They were all first timers. They all had an amazing event. And they all finished in very different times. So we had some speedy sort of 3:30, 3:40 runners. We had the 5 hours, 5.5 hours, and we had a 7-hour runner. So we got the full gambit there. Well, apart obviously from the super speedy people who finish in sort of under 3 hours. But this is the bulk of the field. Most people will finish in that sort of 4 to 7 hour band. It's not a super fast race, this one, not like Boston, for example, where you've obviously got to qualify. The difference with this race is that this is a social event. This is a lifestyle choice. This is very, very different to a normal marathon. You can't really call it a normal marathon. Normal marathons don't have 60-70% of the field raising money for charity. They don't have hundreds of thousands of people lining the streets. It's very, very different. It becomes a way of life for the people training for it. This is exactly what the runners who join us on this podcast felt like. For them, it was a lifestyle change. It wasn't just, oh, it's another marathon. This is a very unique race for lots of people, the vast majority that run it. You've always got your front couple of thousand. A lot of them do it every year. They run for a running club and they just come back and do another London. It's not like that for most people. Huge amount of these runners only do it once. So we're joined on this podcast by Michael, who ran for Kidney Research UK, Sian, who ran for Cornwall Hospice Care. She got quite badly injured in the lead up to the race, so didn't want to pull out, so basically walked the whole way around and did an amazing job. And then we've got from the Scoliosis Support and Research Charity 6 runners who we talked to: Lucy, Melissa, Stephen, Riley, Matt, and John. And they all raised fantastic amounts of money, as did Sian and Michael. Incredible to see the amount of money this race raises every year. It really is unbelievable. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to talk to runners about different aspects of the course. So we'll look at the expo first, then the start area, first half, second half, last mile wrap up. And we've got viewpoints and feedback from the runners on those specific areas of the race. So the expo is held out at Excel in Docklands. And it's quite something. It's a huge event. And if any of you have been to Excel, you'll know the scale of that place. And it's your first exposure really to how vast this event is. Most of you will be training on your own. You might be in a running club, but you'll do a lot of runs on your own. When you get to the expo, you realize how big this is and how many other people are involved. We've got now some feedback from Lucy and Melissa on their feelings when they first got to the expo.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. I mean, even from the front of the door, I think there's a few entrances to the Excel, but whatever, from the entrance I went in, it was like a 5-minute walk just to get to the entrance of the London Marathon bit. and then you queue up and you get your bib, and then you go in to the actual expo, and it's just huge. And there's so many trainers and t-shirts and socks and things trying to be sold to you. And, you know, I just walked around and tried to soak it all in and looked at all of the different charities and all of the different stuff that was there, and the wall with your, try and find your name on the wall. But it's quite overwhelming, and seeing all these different people, and some people who look like professional runners, and some people who you're like, are you running it, or are you here with someone else who's running it? And yeah, it's quite an overwhelming thing. And I went after work on the Wednesday because thankfully I'm in London, so it was not too hard to get to. But even then, on the first day where it's supposed to be quieter, was super busy. And yeah, you're like, how am I running a marathon in 4 days?
I went up to the expo on the Thursday morning, and yeah, that was crazy. I mean, I've been to a few expos now, but it was massive, and you just really feel, I've been walking into the Excel Centre because it's just so huge, and you just feel like the weight of what you're about to do kind of hitting you, and it all feels quite emotional. And I happened to bump into my auntie there who was also running, which was just so random and just so nice. And yeah, it's just like finding your name on the wall. I just always love doing that, and like picking everything up, seeing what's going on, seeing who's talking. Yeah, it was, but just try to kind of like keep my feet on the ground and just get lots of food in and lots of sleep in before race morning on Sunday.
The start area itself is just unbelievable. So this is at Greenwich, Blackheath. It's just huge. There are a different number of starts, and very recently they've introduced this new green environmental start where you don't get a bag drop. You drop your bags off in central London the day before. So that's a fairly recent innovation. But for most people, you are allocated to a start area, a coloured start area, and you go off in waves. So it's, again, different to a few years ago where everyone pretty much went off at the same time, even though you didn't start running when the gun went off, which is still the case in these waves. You all technically started at the same time previously. Now you don't. So you get an allocated time, which is across an hour and a half period. That time corresponds to your predicted finish time. So the start area basically is busy for a 3-4 hour time frame, given that some people like to turn up, and rightly so, an hour and a half before their allocated time. So there's lots of nervous people running around and warming up, stretching, trying to find a toilet that's not got a massive queue against it, because whatever race organisers do, you can never put enough toilets out for the number of people that need them. So we've got a bit more feedback from Lucy and from Sian on their experiences at the start area.
Obviously, it was really hot, so I was hydrating like mad, and I really needed a wee. And I was like, I just need to get to the start now and go to the toilet. And I finally got to my pen, and the queues for the loo were unreal, which was scary. And thankfully, we kind of realised there were some other toilets across on the other side. But, there's just so many people everywhere, and everyone's kind of just like sat around in this holding pen like farm animals waiting. But once I got into the loo, then I was much calmer, and you start to have a chat to a couple of people, and everyone's in the same boat and feeling nervous and excited and all the rest of it. And they had water and whatever, and it was sort of fine. But actually, planning for that start point, I was like, it's quite a long time waiting. And then like, what time do you want to leave? And I left probably half an hour earlier than I thought I might need to, but definitely worth it, because everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. And actually, I was only really sat waiting for about 15-20 minutes. And obviously you're doing stretching and warming up and stuff anyway, so it wasn't a lot of time like actually just kind of waiting as you think it's going to be.
It's just huge. You don't really appreciate the scale of it. I've had a look back at the some of the TV commentary where they've got the aerial photos, and you think, wow, it really is a huge area there. I've got a video of me crossing over. I filmed it as I was crossing the start line, and it's quite spread out, which I'm amazed at, considering I think it's because I
hung back in wave. I hung back so that I wasn't slowing anyone down. I ran out over the start line because I was like, I can't not run this. Someone's going to go, what are you doing in that wave? You're walking. So but I was thinking, please, at that point, I was like, wow, here we're off. This is amazing. But please, this little gentle bit of running, please don't let that affect the rest of the 26 miles or whatever further, So as soon as was kind of reasonable, then slowed down, I started walking. Almost immediately, as I was right out the way, and someone ran past and just touched my shoulder and went, are you okay? Is everything all right? Which I just straight away thought, wow, someone else is clearly doing their own race. We've just set off, and straight away the care and compassion. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm good, thanks. Didn't want to slow them down. And the crowd, I had my name on my top, which I would highly recommend, because I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of people, they scream your name and they go, Come on, you can do this. And I think because I was walking so early, people thought like I needed a boost. So they're like, you've got this. Come on, pick it up again. You can get going again. And I'm thinking, I wanted a big sign saying I'm walking because I'm injured almost.
The first few miles of the race are in a slightly quieter part of London. Given that most spectators obviously want to be a little bit further down the course, so it's not quiet by most race standards. It's very busy by most marathon standards, but for London, it is a little bit quieter out near the start area. But it's still chocker with landmarks. One of the biggest, obviously, being the Cutty Sark boat, which is at that mile 6 point. So the first half, which obviously includes Tower Bridge as well, full of landmarks, full of excitement. It's the place where, you're in it. You've got to go in. The reality is hit now. You are running the London Marathon. It really is it's very emotional. Not as emotional, obviously, as it is towards the end, but just this is it. It's happening. So we've got some feedback from Michael, specifically talking about the amount of crowds. We've got Riley, and we've got a little bit more from Lucy.
It was unbelievable. And a couple of people who've run it from the run club before, they just said this year seemed to be I don't know if it was the weather and the sunshine, pubs all open. They just said the noise was unbelievable this year.
I remember my dad said the places that the first bit you run through is one of the quieter areas, and it's a bit of like but not a rough area, but an area where people don't really want to hang around. And I was like, thinking in my head, I was like, this is mental. And apparently this is not even the busiest part. So I got out of that. And then when you actually start heading into London, the crowds really pick up. And then you're like, wow. Like the biggest regret I had actually was I put my name on my vest, on my bib, but my vest covered it. But I was still getting buzzed from hearing other people's name. I luckily ran with Lucy for a bit, the scoliosis runner. And I was getting the buzz out of people chanting her name. Even I was like, go on, Lucy. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm running this. I'm not in the crowd. Do you know what I mean? It's a day where you just, no words can put it into, can do it justice, really. It's crazy. Cutty Sark was actually first, and that was just, wow. Yeah, funny thing is that I've never actually been to Cutty Sark. That was the first time I've been. I didn't know what it even was before, so I mentioned it on the route, and I was like, wow, because it gets bigged up a lot on TikTok videos and all that. And then the London Bridge is crazy.
It was also lovely. Like, it was so nice that it was a really sunny day, and you could just tell that all of the spectators were having the best time and enjoying it and soaking it all up, which I'm sure they would, whatever the weather, but it felt nice. And I was like, it's going to be hard either way, whether it's hot or not. I don't think I'm going to find this easy. So it just felt like London at its best, in the sun, in the warmth. You're running through Greenwich at 11 a.m. and people are outside having pints, like just enjoying it so much. And that helps you enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, the first half was just a dream and it felt good. And Ramesh Ranganathan was behind me at one point, and then I bumped into Riley, also from the Scoliosis Support and Research, and we ran together for a bit, which was great. And then you get to Tower Bridge and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it started to get really hard and painful. But the crowds get even bigger when you cross Tower Bridge, and it's just constant cheering and people shouting my name the whole way round. And then I saw my parents and my brother and my friends, and yeah, so even though the pain just got worse and worse and worse, and it felt so hard, that atmosphere was just unbelievable.
Now, the second half is where things start getting serious, obviously. Once you come out of Tower Bridge, you then turn right towards Docklands. And at that mile 14 point is where you see runners coming back the other way. So they've done a big chunk of the course. They've only got 5 miles to go. Can be a bit demoralizing. One positive way of looking at it is their day's nearly done, but I've still got lots of fun and enjoyment to come. Not everyone looks at it like that, but that's the sort of a positive mindset approach to it. And of course, you are going to see so many famous buildings around London at that point. So you go out to Docklands and then you come back into London, down the embankment, great views across the river. And then, of course, it's Big Ben, and you are then into the last stretch. So we've got feedback on this second half from Stephen, Melissa again, and we've got Matt, who will give his thoughts on that second half. That's when it all starts getting really serious when it comes to your relative energy levels. Most people have trained up to sort of 18 to 20 miles, and now you're going way past that.
Well, I mean, the thing is, 10K into a marathon and you having problems, it's going to be a tough day for you. So, I did slow down quite a bit then. I went through the half 5 minutes off where I wanted to be, but I really struggled at that point. 15 miles, I was really struggling. So I was walking from 15 miles to 20, to be honest with you. So then it's just about finishing then, isn't it? But actually, with 10K to go, I sort of had a bit of a new lease of life. And I thought if I really push it at that point, I might get below 4 hours. So I did push it for the last sort of K and then realised I wasn't going to do it. So I took your advice, slowed down, took in the crowds, the atmosphere and Houses of Parliament, and just enjoyed the last 2K, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so I was looking at the pictures of me going over Tower Bridge last night, and I think I've just jaw dropped. It's just amazing because you just can't believe that it's there. But then there's also this voice in the back of your head, you're not even quite halfway yet. Calm down. And then you can see everyone coming the other way, and you're just like, God, well, that will be me in 2 hours, maybe. It's already going to be a while away. And actually, although the underpass around that point had been blocked, so my boyfriend couldn't get across, which did make me panic slightly because he had my spare drink. But I managed to see him kind of across the road, and I was like, I'll just deal with that later. I don't really have the time to think about it. But I think knowing that you're kind of coming into Docklands and all that area, I knew that was going to be a bit more of a slog with what I'd kind of heard from people. And it feels quite kind of intricate because you're going round lots of different turns and got quite narrow in places, and that was probably the least enjoyable part of it for me, just because it felt like we were just stuck in the city for so long. I was like, please just get me going back the other way to where I can see people coming that way, so I know that I'm on the homeward stretch now.
That's amazing. I mean, I didn't realise Big Ben was that close to the finish line, to be honest with you. And I did remember thinking, why have I not seen Big Ben yet whilst I was running around? But yeah, we got to Big Ben, and it was at that point I switched my Garmin back to have a look at my estimated finish time, and I worked out I was going to be over 4 hours, which I didn't want. But I mean, I tried to pick it up a little bit, but it wouldn't have been possible. So the main thing that got to me is obviously the weaving. It added on that much. I mean, on mine, it added on 0.4 miles. So on my watch, it's saying I've got 1 mile left. Yeah, I keep on running and running and running, and then I get to a 25-mile marker. So I'm thinking, what's going on here? This is never going to end.
And then we're into that last amazing stretch, the end of the embankment, Big Ben, Birdcage Walk, Buckingham Palace, and then down the Mall. Incredible. I've done a lot of races around the world, and I don't think there's a better last mile than this one. New York, it's great running through Central Park, but there is nothing quite as emotional as this section. I mean, Buckingham Palace, clearly one of the most recognizable buildings anywhere in the world, and to be able to run past that with tens of thousands of people cheering you on is just quite something. It's also highly emotional. There are people shedding tears everywhere, including me when I ran my first one. There's nothing like it. And you will never forget this for a second. So we've got Melissa, Riley, and John who are going to tell us their feelings when they ran down that section of the course. And, I can absolutely guarantee you there is nothing quite like it.
Tears didn't fully come until the real last home straight coming round from Buckingham Palace. But I saw one of my best friends was just under Waterloo Bridge. So that was pretty close to the end, and seeing her was the last little boost I needed. And it was just so lovely. And just the crowds there are it's just so loud, and everybody is so emotional because they're finishing. And it was just incredible. And yeah, it was just so overwhelming. You're just instant tears because you just can't believe that you've done it. And to be coming down that iconic stretch on the Mall is just, it's so crazy. It's just nothing like you could ever describe.
What is it? It's 400 yards or something, and it feels like it goes on for bloody ever. That was quite a moment. Just I kind of took it all in there, and I kind of looked behind me, realised Buckingham Palace, and then the home stretch, just the roar, and a couple of my mates had it on that BBC where you could watch them finish the line. So my phone was going mental when I finished, saying, there he is, go on the boy. So a moment I'll never forget. I think getting that medal, feel like that was 17 weeks done. Do you know what I mean? That's a training you, blood, sweat and tears, quite literally, 26 miles, which was not a victory lap. It was an absolute slog. That's it, done.
Just remember a gentleman sort of shouting, "You've only got 1.2 to go. You're nearly there. Just round the corner, just round the corner." And just everyone chanting you on. Locals, people taking time out of the day or travelled down there. Just, when you're on going, you've got this shouting your name out and, saying that, you'll get there. You've got the bacon, all these cockneys shouting to you and stuff like that, You'll be there. And I was like, I just need to just keep pushing through. I just need to look out for the palace and the Mall and the flags. And then before I had someone saying, "Once you've seen the flags, it's just round the corner." I was like, I've got to run through that finishing line or sort of jog.
So if you want to run London in 26, well, it's obviously too late to enter the ballot. There were over 1 million people entered, and I don't know anyone who's actually got a spot. It's incredibly hard to get into. There are opportunities, obviously, with the charities. Most charities want £1,500 to £3,000 of fundraising for one of their entries. And understandably so. Everybody wants to run this race. So don't just assume you're going to get a charity spot. You'll need to tell them how you're going to raise that money. And you need to start nice and early if you do get a charity entry. And of course, if you get a normal entry, but with a charity entry, you've got to start particularly early because you've got all this fundraising to do. And it is achievable, so don't think for 1 second that it's not. Now, our little wrap up here, we've got Riley, Matt, Stephen and Sean just giving their final thoughts on the race. They all raised a lot of money, as did all of the runners you've heard on this podcast. All did incredibly well, raised anything from 2,000 through to 4,500. Did an incredible job. It's a once in a lifetime for a lot of people. It's the only time they'll do it. And they have an incredible day that they'll look back on with great fondness. A lot of people that run this won't see half the landmarks that they actually run past because there's so much going on. There's so much noise. There's so much celebration. It really is, Lucy mentioned at the start, it's London at its best. And it absolutely is. It's a very different place on race day. So let's hear from these guys and let them tell you what an incredible day they had.
You can't train for it, I think. I put 17, 18 weeks of running with headphones in on the Downs link, not seeing many people and just yourself versus your own brain, really. And I think with the London Marathon, you realise that it is truly one of the best experiences and days you'll ever do, and just taking every minute, and you kind of blink twice to kind of realise what you're doing. It feels like you're living in a dream. It feels like you're just playing like a football game and you're actually on the pitch.
It was an incredible experience, one that I'll never forget. The heat, took me by surprise, really. I had to revert to plan B quite early on because of that. But yeah, I mean, it was a great day. It was a great weekend all along, all in.
It was a fun day. I mean, it's, you know, I live in London, so I've gone and watched the marathon before, but you just don't get the sense of it until you run the 26 miles, of the noise and the crowds.
It was absolutely incredible, like insanely amazing. I know everyone says it's amazing and, like, you know, you always, oh, yeah, okay. But it really, really is just the best day.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that podcast. There are more event ones coming soon. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.